And so today, Molly and I join you in committing ourselves and all of our energies to the task of caring for our university. I believe that the right time has come. That is why I'm announcing today that I plan to retire as president of the University of Oklahoma.
I'm Joe Foote, Dean Emeritus of the Gaylord College of Journalism and Mass Communications. During my tenure at the University of Oklahoma, I've observed firsthand the leadership and vision of David and Molly Shai Boren. I recently joined them at the Boyd House for an intimate discussion of the past and the future of the Boren Legacy. Not many people would voluntarily give up a seat in the United States Senate to go into education. What were you thinking?
Oh my goodness, I'll put it this way. I'm so glad that I made that decision. I've thought back over it. It had been a decision that probably had been in the back of my mind for a long time. When I was a student at Oxford, and it's the only year I ever kept a diary in my life. I kept a diary for 1 year, and I wrote in the diary some things that I hoped I could accomplish in my lifetime, looking ahead. And one of those things I wrote was be a U.S. Senator from Oklahoma. Being the from Oklahoma part of it was very important. And the other thing I wrote was, I hope that someday I might have a chance to be president of the University of Oklahoma. So in a way, it's a dream that came back from long standing that had been there for a long time, because I saw it, it's not a question of power. When I stepped down from the Senate, some people wrote articles and they said, why would you give up so much power as a United States Senator to become a university president, where the powers are certainly very limited? And I answered that by saying, you know, public service is not about power. It's about service. Where can you be of the greatest service? Where can you do the greatest good? And while I was trying to mull over that decision, and Molly was very much encouraging me to come home to the university, it's the best decision I ever made. There is no greater reward than being with the young people who are going to be the future of the place that you love. And seeing them change, seeing them grow and develop, making sure that they have the opportunities. You know, Joe, what I really felt intensely about was we have all these talented young people in our state, in our region. And I wanted to make sure that they didn't have to leave Oklahoma, they didn't have to go somewhere else to get a higher education experience, a university experience that would be second to none. I wanted to make sure they would have every chance that any child anywhere else in America would have to fully develop their talents. So that was my goal. I wanted the best for them. I wanted the greatest opportunities for them. And that's really what's been driving me every year for the last, I guess, 24 years or so that I've been here. Molly and I have been here at the university.
I can think of no greater privilege in sunshine or in rain than to have the opportunity to lead this community of outstanding faculty, students, and staff in a place that means so much to me and to my family. Mr. Chairman, with profound humility, but with great enthusiasm and confidence in our future, I accept your charge and I accept the responsibilities of the presidency of the University of Oklahoma.
Molly, did you see where this was going early on?
Well, initially, I was skeptical that he would accept the offer to come to the University of Oklahoma. But when I realized he was serious and wanted to, I was ecstatic, because I was looking forward to coming home. I had been involved in a number of things back in Oklahoma while he was in the Senate. So I was already spending about half my time in Oklahoma, half here and half in Washington. So I was very pleased, and I've never changed my mind.
What was the biggest transition from the Senate to being president of OU?
Oh, I think probably, and this will surprise people, just the physical demands of the job, the number of hours. You know, when you finished your work at the Senate, you went home, you were really through for the day, but that's not true at the university. It's really literally a 24-hour-a-day job. Most of my job is not just working on the curriculum, not just working on the budget, not just working on hiring talented faculty and staff members, but it's spending a lot of the time with the students, which is the greatest part of it all, having the chance to be with them, but to be at their events, be at their productions, be at their athletic events, be someone that's really a part of the family as you try to create a university family. So changing the culture was a big challenge. I found that we didn't have the sense of family and community that I wanted us to have, and so the president and the first lady really have to be an important part of building that. If you're going to build a family, you have to realize that you're an important part, an important symbolic part of the entire family, and you have to be a part of things. So you really had to be embedded in the university community and a part of it. And then, of course, if there's something that happens in the middle of the night, if there's something that happens in a dorm, if a fire breaks out, if there's an accident where a student's injured, something else happens, you're called in the middle of the night, just like you would be with your own children. You have a really strong sense. Maybe it's an old-fashioned way of looking at it, but in some ways you're the mother and father figure for the family. Now I say we've been here long enough that we're the grandparent figures for the family, but it's very important to be deeply involved in their daily lives.
Well, you made a move early on to reclaim the university president's house where we're sitting,
right,
where it had been customary for a generation or so for university presidents to get far away from campus to escape that.
No, and I think that's in the wrong message. You want to be right here. You want to be available. You want to be a part of the community. And Molly and I both felt very strongly. In fact, it's one of the first things we asked the regents, because there was a plan actually to tear down this great historic house that went all the way back to President Boyd, that had hosted people like John Philip Sousa and Carl Sandburg, the writer, and so many other people over the years, Mrs. Roosevelt and others. There was a plan to tear it down for a parking lot, if you can believe that. It was in terrible condition. And we felt, no, the president and his wife should live here, right where the students know, right at the edge of the campus, right where students can find you. And so, of course, led to a lot of amusing incidents over the years of doorbells rung in the middle of the night and students making comments that I hear over the fence and can talk back to. But it really makes you part of the community, and we felt very strongly, and Molly played such a hand in restoring this house. We raised the private funds. All was raised privately to restore the house, and then among the first guests were President and Mrs. Cross, who had lived here for so many years, 25 years, and they were both still living at the time, and they were in L Health. We wanted to make sure that they could come and be here, see this house, and I remember Dr. Cross standing in the living room moving his feet back and forth, and he said, yes, there's the same squeak in the floor that was here when we were here. So it was a continuity of something that had been there in the past, and we felt it was very important symbolically to be back close to the students, for them to know where we are.
And Molly, what have you done to try to make this house a welcoming place for students?
Well, Joe, we thought a lot about how we would redo the house, and we wanted to do it in such a way that any conceivable family would be comfortable here, would be happy here. And we wanted it to be a home, but it also has to accommodate, formal entertaining and informal entertaining. We even made one of the guest bedrooms handicap accessible. We put in an elevator. We put in a handicap ramp. We added this room to accommodate large groups, because there were no rooms in the house really large enough to accommodate a group of any size.
We're sitting in a room that you might call it the living room of the university, because over in the course of a year, and we've kept track of the numbers over time, but literally hundreds and thousands of members of the university community, faculty members, students too. That too creates a sense of family. You have to bring people together physically in order for them to feel that kind of kinship and that kind of bond with each other.
I know that's a huge priority of yours, creating a family atmosphere, community. What are some other examples of how you've done that?
And I'd say, Joe, right off the bat, why I think that's so important. I think when you think about the problems facing our country right now, and I know we have many challenges, but I think perhaps our greatest challenge is how we relate to each other. We have become, instead of the United States of America, in so many ways, a divided group. We've become polarized, we've become splintered politically. In so many other ways, groups have been dividing in the country instead of uniting to come together to solve problems. So when you think about it, what do I think is one of the most serious problems facing the country? It's that sense of family nationally, that sense that we are Americans, we're one American family. We value each other, we care about each other, we respect each other, we love each other. And I think that's so important to our future. Help change our political culture. Do not put your personal ambition or any partisan political purpose ahead of what is good for the United States. Don't play the game of playing us against each other to help your own political ambition. Don't play the game of appealing to our narrow, selfish self-interest. Appeal to our best instincts. Help us forget whether we're Democrats or Republicans and bring us together as Americans to solve the challenges that we face.
What President and Mrs. Boren both have always said, not only do we want to graduate great students here at the University of Oklahoma with a solid degree, we also want to graduate good citizens.
My favorite speech he gives every year is at freshman convocation, and he will say to them, remember to sample all kinds of courses, to study internationally. But then he says, the most important thing is committing yourself to something bigger than just your own self-interest.
I'm fond of saying to students, you know, we measure our strength economically, we measure our strength militarily, but I think sometimes we underestimate the power of kindness, because I think the way we treat each other, the way we care for each other is going to determine our future as much as anything else as a society. So we need examples of real communities. And I think for me, if the University of Oklahoma could become a real family, a real community, where even when we differ with each other, we do it with respect and civility and love, and we continue to respect each other. If we could become that kind of community, we'd make a very important contribution to the entire country as an example and as a role model. So that's the reason we've emphasized it so much. And one of the first things we did on the campus, the housing patterns often determine how well you can create community. And we had, unfortunately, a situation where upper income young people that were going to be in the Greek system were in one of our freshman residence halls. People of color tended to clump in another residence hall. People of lower incomes tended to clump in another residence hall. And people could pick not only their own roommates, but they could pick their suite mates, their hall mates. They could group together into what were really social cliques and other kinds of cliques based upon economics and race and religion and so on. So we did away with all that. I said, no, you can pick your one roommate, but you can't pick your hall mates. You can't determine which dorm you're going to live in. So no longer did you have a dorm that was this income level or that income level or this social group or that social group or racial group. We all became just OU students, members of the OU family, because what happened is when students get to know each other, and that's how they grow, that's how they develop. Getting to know someone who's different and has a different experience than their own, someone from a different race, someone from a different culture, someone maybe from a different country. So you grow and you develop not by clumping together with people just like yourselves. We all grow when we get to know people who've had different life experiences, and it enriches our own experience. So I felt it was very important to make that decision, and Molly and I talked about it a lot. She encouraged me to make it, and so I think that's one of the things that from the very beginning helped create a new sense of community on the campus and people getting to know each other, getting outside their comfort zones.
More recently, you've established residential colleges, a different concept for an Oklahoma university.
Right, it really is. These are patterned on those at, for example, Harvard and Yale and Oxford and Cambridge. I had the experience myself in living in a residential college when I was a college undergraduate. And they're not just dormitories, I think people think of it. On our campus, we've always had housing for the freshmen. But after freshman year, we didn't really have the space for upperclassmen. They either had to go rent houses or rent apartments or join the Greek system or some other way of finding a place to live. But this, for the first time, will allow our upperclassmen, and we're beginning with the two colleges have 700 members. That's the beginning. They'll have a chance to live on campus. And in these colleges, which, by the way, also have faculty members attached to them as fellows of the college, it's really a whole different kind of community, a learning community, and we're really excited to see how it's already taken hold at OU, and my prediction is it will grow in the future.
And what you see is President Boren and Molly creating a sense of place for the student. Having residential colleges or creating a Center for the Creation of Economic Wealth, whether it's a smaller setting at a large university like the Honors College, or whether it's entirely new colleges like the College of International Studies.
You've also put a high priority on getting OU students to study abroad and get an international experience. How has that worked out?
It's really worked out well. When Molly and I first came to OU, we did a study, and something like, and only 1.5% of our students had the chance to study abroad, study in other countries while they were here. And that was true of the whole nation. Only 1% in the nation. We were slightly better than the rest of the country. But that so limits our students. They're going to be living in a global environment. They're going to have to operate as citizens with the rest of the world. They're going to have economic relationships, business relationships with people in other countries. They're going to have political relationships and other kinds of relationships. So it's very important. It's like not learning how to read and write if you don't learn how to function in an international environment. So we wanted to change that, and I'm happy to say that today, approximately 1/3 of our students have a study abroad experience while they're here. And the great thing about it is it's not just the affluent students who are here, but we provide study abroad scholarships for those students who really need extra financial help, because usually it's just been the children from affluent families who've even been able to travel in other countries. And so many of our students have not had that opportunity. So it's life-changing when you go to another place, you study in another place, you experience their culture. It just broadens your whole world outlook. And reading the letters and postcards that Molly and I get from our students who study abroad is heartwarming, because they're talking about, this has changed my life.
Molly, you've also seen the development of a campus in Italy.
Yes,
for
John.
OU, and maybe
Yes.
you can give us your reaction to that.
It's been a wonderful success. David started a program over there, a study abroad program in the city of Arezzo, which is in Tuscany, in Italy. And our students were going, and they were staying with families, and some were, renting places. And the young man who runs that program had a proposal for David. He said, there is what once was a convent that has come on the market. It has been desanctified by the church, by the Catholic Church, and we could use that, we could turn that into a place where students could stay, where we would have classrooms. So we went over, took a look at it, and conferred with some of our in-house people as well as local architects and attorneys, and he made the decision, yes, we'll do it, and raise the money privately to buy it and to restore it. And it is a beautiful place. There's a beautiful garden where students can go outdoors. They can have local friends that they have made come. So we have students and faculty who are there the year round, studying, teaching, learning, and the students have the opportunity to travel all over Europe while they're there. It's been we think, a wonderful thing for the university, wonderful thing for our students, wonderful thing for our faculty. And we feel that it so enriches the educational experience for students here it's been worth every penny. And the donors who've had a chance to go over and see who've contributed have been very, very happy. They think there's a great return on their investment.
Well, all of these things we've been talking about take money.
Well, they do.
And you've gone out and raised it privately. What qualities does it take to have that kind of vision and find the resources to meet it?
Well, I think I get a lot more credit than I deserve. Molly does. We do in terms of the fundraising. It's really a tribute to the generosity of our alumni and of our friends and the people of Oklahoma. When you look back, and they astounded me with the figures. They said that since we've been here, private donors have given over $3 billion to the University of Oklahoma. Could we have a RETSO? Could we have study abroad programs? Could we have other kind of enrichment programs, internships and other things, and scholarships, which have been quadrupled for students who so desperately need that financial aid? Could we have been able to do that? Could we have gone from less than 100 endowed chairs and professorships, those that are endowed with private funds that allow us to compete for the best faculty members in the country by paying them extra money that comes from the private donors? Could we have gone from 100 to 380 without them? No, it's impossible. This was all done with private funding and private help, which makes me, Joe, when I think about it, it's not only a great source of pride for us, but here's what worries me. We're in the strongest position we've ever been as a university. I think we have the strongest faculty we've ever had. Our student body is just amazing. We're the first public university in America, for example, that has been #1 in the number of National Merit Scholars enrolled. But it's happened because we've had private gifts that have enabled us to do these things. We have not had support from the state. And in the last 5 years, we have received almost twice as much, sometimes more than twice as much, each year from private donors as we've received from the state. So in many ways, the great worry that I have is not that the university is not the strongest it's ever been. I think it is. Our students, our faculty, our staff are just achieving great heights. Our reputation nationally has grown and grown. But this could all come to an end if we finally reach the point that people have given us all they can give us privately, that we've gotten as much help as we can get. And if the state is going to remain, we're running the University of Oklahoma today with the same amount of money that we received 20 years ago to run the university. We have over 2,000 more students. Think of all the programs and the opportunities we have for our students that we didn't have before. If we had to depend solely on state support, unless the next governor and the next legislature really turn this thing around and put a priority on giving great opportunities for Oklahoma's young people, develop our talent, starting in at the elementary and schools and the high schools and coming on through the universities, unless they decide to invest in the next generation, we are really in trouble. And I worry about that. I worry about the lost opportunities for our young people, all this talent that's going to go to waste if we can't develop it. And you know, there's going to come a time where the private donors have done all they can do. Their pockets are only so deep. And we have to have the support of all of our citizens if we're going to continue these great opportunities for our students. So as I leave with great pride in where the university is right now, but I leave with great concern about its future if we don't do something to turn around this budgetary situation that we have in Oklahoma. It affects all of us who are trying to deal with the next generation.
When alumni return to campus, one of the first things they notice are all the beautiful new buildings and how incredibly beautiful the campus has become through trees and landscaping. And Molly, I know you played a major role in the beautification of the campus.
Joe, I'm kind of the cheerleader. We have an incredible landscape department, and our gardeners are very, very proud of what they do. And so I'm the cheerleader, and David provides the financial resources so that our people can do what they're capable of doing. But what we've done or tried to do in terms of the beautification of the campus, we believe that the university should be sacred space, and that when people come here, whether it's students coming to look at a campus, trying to decide where they want to go to college, whether it's parents who come here with their children, we think if you create a beautiful space, usually we have a friend who used to say, you only have one chance to make a first impression, and that impression is usually a visual impression. So if parents come here and they see that we take care of the landscape, we take care of the buildings, things are well maintained, we hope that the takeaway for them is they'll take care of my child if my child comes here. And we found that the beauty of the campus has been a great recruiting tool. We're often told by students that was the reason they decided to come here. We've even been told by coaches that it helps them in recruiting athletes. And faculty members have told us it helps them in recruiting faculty members. But there are many ways that the landscaping, the buildings, everything provides a sense of community. We've talked about community before. There were no benches on the campus when we got here. And as we began to landscape more and more of the area, we realized, it's one thing just to walk through this, but if there were benches for people to sit on, they might sit down and talk to each other. So if you provide that opportunity, again, you help to create community. So we decided what we would do is offer a naming opportunity to our alumni. So what we did, we began sending out the word that if a person wanted to buy a bench and place it on the campus, we'd put a plaque on it, and they could memorialize a person who was deceased or honor a living person. And we discovered that very quickly those started going like hotcakes. So we did a plan. We realized we couldn't just willy-nilly let people pick exactly where they wanted a bench. We could have a jumble. So we did a map of the whole campus and picked out places where it would make sense to put benches. And then after what, we didn't even have to market it. People started calling in. In fact, we have a waiting list now of people who want to buy benches. But putting those benches out on the campus, if you walk the campus on a pretty day, you'll notice people, they're all full. On a game day, on a football game day, they're all packed. But what it helps to do is to get people to sit down. They can sit down and enjoy the landscape. They can wait for a person. They can visit with people, and it helps to create community.
Her sense of creating this pastoral setting with the benches. There's always somebody sitting on the benches, sometimes just resting, sometimes watching, thinking, talking. And Molly Boren understood that you needed this place of beauty and calm, that it's probably a luxury in our modern society to have it, but to pass through that kind of environment changes you.
This park-like setting in the middle of the prairie, that's a gift from President and Mrs. Boren, mainly Mrs. Boren. But they have both worked tirelessly in this effort to make sure that this is a safe and nurturing environment.
We also want to send out our students as good citizens. We want to educate our students as well as we can, but we also want to send out good citizens with a strong sense of civic responsibility. So this is their community, and there are a number of ways we've gone about getting them involved in taking care of their community. One way is we have what's called an Adopt an Area program. And so each area of the campus, the way our landscape gardeners work, each gardener has an area assigned to him or her, and they're responsible for taking care of that area. So each of our sororities, each of our fraternities, and each of our residence halls has an area, just like you'll see outside a community, you'll see signs where a local civic club has adopted a portion of the highway outside the city that they keep clean. So that's what we do with our students. So there's a plaque in each of these areas, this adopted area adopted by the name of the residence hall or the sorority or the fraternity. And each week, the gardener in each of these areas gives either a thumbs up or a thumbs down to the student group who's responsible for keeping that area litter-free. And the student newspaper then each week those ratings are run in the student newspaper. So it's an incentive for these student groups to keep their areas clean. And again, our hope is it's teaching them to assume responsibility for their community, for their campus. And we feel that's working very well because many times we've seen a front page article in the student newspaper where students are outraged that over the weekend people have come in and trashed up their campus. So we feel it's taken in that respect. But I think perhaps one of the most rewarding times for me, one of the most gratifying moments since we've been here, is when we had a terrible, terrible ice storm. And trees were, it was terrible what happened all over the campus. It was true all over the state, but this campus was really devastated. And it happened at the beginning of finals week at the end of the first semester in the middle of the winter. So we went to our outside donors, our alumni, for money. It was going to cost us $1.3 million to clean up the campus and then replant trees. So our donors, our alumni came through in gifts of all different amounts, and we raised that money privately. But our students, we asked our students to volunteer their time to come in on a Saturday to do cleanup. And we thought maybe 250 students would show up. It was a cold, damp Saturday morning. We thought, oh no, they're going to turn over and go back to sleep. Nobody's going to show up. 1,000 students voluntarily showed up to clean up their campus. They saved us $150,000 on that Saturday. So for me, it was particularly gratifying because it demonstrated their love for their own community. They were demonstrating, in my opinion, great civic pride and responsibility. They were assuming responsibility voluntarily to take care of their community. So we feel that there are any number of ways that the physical, the physical part of the university, the landscaping, the buildings, can also play a role. It plays a role in creating community, and it also plays a role in helping to create citizens.
One of those initiatives is our big event, where students spend a day volunteering around the community and reaching out to the members of Norman, of Oklahoma City, and showing that we want to be a part of your community. We want to help. That is truly what we should all be as citizens.
The Borens bring strength because they bring credibility. Those two have to go hand in hand. They have left a legacy and an example that many of us will try to emulate, but very few will be ever able to match.
Joe, I think what you've just seen is an example of the partnership that we have, and that's something that's been so rewarding about this job. We've been able to do it together. It's been something we've been able to be partners in this enterprise, and I don't want to embarrass her, but I get a lot of credit from a lot of people for things that Molly does, for ideas she has, for initiatives that she's taken, like our being one of the 25 most beautiful campuses in America. She's very partially responsible for that and very much involved, as you've seen, but in so many other things that people don't see. For example, starting our Cousins program. That was a joint idea we had when we met an international student who said, more or less, I only get to know other international students here. Well, now we have a plan that matches an American student with an international student and their cousins, and they do things together. They go home together. We've even had 8 cousins that have gotten married in time. So we know that special bonds are formed, but all sorts of programs. She came home one day and we were talking and she said, you know, even though we understand the need for separation of church and state, we still need to make sure that our students are being exposed to religions of the world, religious studies, that they're fully literate about how religion and the spiritual side of things motivate people, not only in this country but around the world. And so we started the religious studies program, so we could make sure that it's neutral. We don't try to proselytize for any one religion, but that, for example, was her idea. There are just so many ideas that when I come home at night, we share ideas, we pool our thoughts. So, you know, this has really not been something that I've done. The presidency has really belonged to both of us, and it's been a wonderful opportunity to be partners in something. And so it's been, I know she would not want me to say this, but she deserves so much credit for the good that's occurred at this university in the last 20 plus years, because she's really devoted herself to it and her ideas, and she's been my principal advisor and remains so today. So it's been fun also to be able to do things together, to bounce ideas off of each other, and to share the excitement we both have and the kinds of things that we can do with our students and for our students. So that's been a part of this job too, that it's an opportunity for partnership that maybe we didn't have as fully in other parts of our lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, part of that partnership has been the development of the fine arts at OU.
Absolutely, and of course that's something that Molly shared with me, the feeling that you can't really be a full comprehensive university. You can, yes, we want to minister to the minds of our students. That's our first mission, their bodies as well in terms of our athletic and other programs, but you can't neglect the development of the whole person. And you can't neglect the soul, the spirit, when you're dealing only with the mind and the body. So it's a part of the whole enterprise. And the fine arts are such an important part of, if you want to call this, of our academic village, as Jefferson called the university. You need to be able to see through the eyes of creative artists, experience their feelings, the way in which music and the arts, other arts forms can distill the essence of who we are and what our humanity means. So the arts, the fine arts, are a very important part of the community, and they have so flourished on our campus. Our dance programs ranked as one of the top 3 in the country. Our art collections and our art museums are among those at the very top of any universities in the country. Some of the finest art collections, for example. What's going on here is really remarkable. Our symphony is something that ranks again as one of the most talented in the country. There are so many areas, and there's such an important part of our daily lives here on the campus. I think sometimes we don't stop to give enough credit to those in the fine arts for how much they enrich our lives, expand our horizons, expand our visions. But it's like anything else. It's like having the experience of studying abroad, living in another culture, being able to be exposed to the fine arts and all the whole area in which our students are being intellectually stimulated in other ways.
You have a reputation for hiring some very bright young people and placing them in positions maybe beyond which most people would expect them to be able to perform. But you've done it over and over again successfully. What do you see there that others may not?
Well, I think first of all, young people are extremely talented and they have the goals, they have ideals. If you want to be an optimist, come to a university and get to be around young people. That's what's made me an optimist, being around our students, being around our young faculty and staff members, and seeing their hopes for the future and seeing how they really want to give back and make things better. It really makes an optimist out of you. And I think there's talent goes to waste sometimes. Just because a person is young doesn't mean that they don't have talent. They don't have the ability to do things well. So I've always had that feeling. When I was in the Senate, I was known for having the youngest staff in the Senate and putting people in positions of responsibility. And that really worked out well. And here at the university, one of the things that I've done is try to find young people who've had experiences at OU. They've been OU students. They love OU because they came through OU during their student days. And then they go off and do other things. They were in the broader world. They have experiences outside of OU, outside of Oklahoma. And then to go and find those students and bring them back here, for example. I think about the dean of our law school who went here as an undergraduate, but he went off and worked in Washington for a while. He went to Georgetown University to finish his law degree. He experiences it out in the commercial world, and then he came back to be dean of the law school, and he's just done an outstanding job. Or I think about our Dean of Business, who again went to OU, and was taken up by McKinsey and Company, a great management consulting firm, and given an opportunity to work for them after he left OU. And so he worked in other parts of the country. He did other things. He started 2 new businesses before he was 30. And then you looked at him, and here was a person that had all these life experiences, but he had something really special. He loved OU because he was a part of OU as a student. He wanted to come back and give back to the state. So young people that have that kind of capability, that have been here and that have gone and done things other places, they make outstanding leaders for our community. They have the heart for it because they love OU. It's not just another job. It's really a way in which they want to invest their lives back here, but they've had other life experiences too.
At every step in my career, he's given me, he and Molly have given me opportunities that I could have never dreamt of. And my hope in all of these is that I've done a job that's worthy of the opportunity they gave me.
He has been one of the first people in my lives who was able to challenge me and motivate me and convince me that if I put in effort and I had aspirations and I was open-minded to opportunities, that I could make a difference, that I could be a part of something larger than myself. And people like that are pretty rare in this world.
What are some of the most difficult choices you've had to make and decisions you've made?
Well, I don't know what Molly would say in terms of the decisions she's had to make, but I think probably the most difficult situation I confronted was the racist video which went viral all across the country, which involved some of our students in a student event. And to have that go all across the country, it was so difficult. And first, so difficult to me that it happened in the first place. As I mentioned, we've worked so hard to build a sense of family, a sense of mutual respect, a sense of belonging by everyone in this community. We've seen diversity as one of our strengths. We do grow, as I said earlier, by being with people unlike ourselves, coming to understand them, understand what they've had to face in their lives. And to see such insensitivity and overt racism on our campus was a shock. At first, when I first saw it, I was sitting at dinner. We had dinner before a major event here. We had 4 Pulitzer Prize-winning historians sitting around our dinner table. I was called to the kitchen and told, please look at this video. It's just gone viral. My first reaction, it couldn't be here. My second reaction was, let's find out for sure. And we did find out, and unfortunately, it was an aberration, but it was our students who were singing this song and expressing these racist views. And people have asked me, how long did it take you to decide what to do about that? And I said, if it's our students, their organization's gonna have to be shut down. We're not gonna tolerate this. Right's right, wrong's wrong. This is not who we are. We're not racists. We're a welcoming community. And so I decided that we were gonna move to temporarily close that organization on campus. And probably took 5 minutes, because not longer, because to me it was just a question of what was right and what was not right, and we couldn't tolerate that. And I realized that if we didn't move in a hurry, Joe, and I've seen others, I won't name any other universities, but there are other universities even in our region where they have had episodes of racial intolerance and insensitivity, and they put off making a decision. At one of those universities, they've lost almost a third of their enrollment. Their minority enrollment has really plummeted. They've even had to close dormitories. They've had such financial problems that it's imperiled the quality of their university in certain areas. And instead, I think because we acted decisively, enrollment at OU didn't go down after that episode, it went up. Minority enrollment virtually doubled after that incident occurred. And I've had so many minority students tell me, and students from other parts of the country, that those that are not minorities, that said, I wanted to come to OU because I knew OU is not a racist university. It clearly showed that it's an inclusive university. And I wanted to come to that kind of community. And so in the long run, what was the most difficult problem that I think I faced was turned out to be a positive for the university, because we faced it head on. We didn't wait. We didn't beat around the bush. We did what we thought was right. We spoke out, and when I look back on it, I remember, I think, probably the most difficult day of my life. I had over 40 interviews, and we were going from one network to another, one talk show to another, and I was being interviewed every 15 minutes by a different interviewer. And my message was, the University of Oklahoma is an inclusive place. Sooners are not racist. That's not who we are. And we're welcoming to everyone. We're creating this special kind of environment, and we're going to continue to do that even with this latest thing that's happened. So I had the opportunity, I guess they say everyone gets their 24 hours of fame or opportunity to speak on something. And while that was so trying, and while that was going on, I thought, can I live through this? Can I make it through this? When I look back on it, to have had the privilege of talking about something that was so important, how we all need to care about each other and love each other without regard to race or religion or other backgrounds. What could be a more important topic than that? To be able to speak to the entire country, literally, during that 48-hour period about those values and about what our university stood for, that ended up being, in many ways, as I look back on it, a tremendously rewarding experience and a great opportunity. So what I thought was the worst problem we'd ever faced and the most terrible thing that had happened turned out to be an opportunity for the university to grow its sense of family even more, and an opportunity for me personally, having been in public life so long and in political life so long, to send a message to the whole country about something that was so truly important.
During your last few years, there have been many budget problems that have caused the university a lot of stress, and I'm sure you personally. What kind of leader does it take to manage in those times compared to the good times?
Well, you have to be creative, and I have a lot of people that help me on the financial side. Vice President Hathaway, for example, and his team that handle the administrative side of the university, the financial affairs of the university, have been very creative.
President Boren has so many different experiences, whether governor, senator, president of OU, and the length of his service gives a certain wisdom and a calmness that in difficult times I think is reassuring to not only the leadership staff but the campus as a whole, that everything will be okay. And his leadership really illustrated that.
Everything we've done, it begins to eat away. And now so many of our colleagues at other colleges and universities where they don't have the private giving at the levels we've had at the university, which is the only thing that has saved us. They've had to lay off faculty members and staff members who've been so loyal and so talented. And what that really means is we're reducing the opportunities for young Oklahomans. We're reducing the opportunities in the future for our students. We're reducing our ability to even provide scholarships and other help so that they can afford to come to the university. And what a tragedy that'd be. I mean, are we going to close the door of opportunity on future Nobel Prize winners who don't have a chance to develop their talents just because they're not from affluent families? That's why public higher education is so important. It's why public education in general is so important. We say we believe in the American dream. No matter what your circumstances when you're born, you can rise to the top in America. Well, you can't rise to the top if you don't have an opportunity for an excellent education and you don't have an equal opportunity to develop your talents. So that's why public education at all levels, and we're debating about that in our state right now, adequate pay for our teachers and for those who serve us and who touch the next generation, Nothing's more important than that. And we have to honestly face that and say that one of our first responsibilities as citizens and as members of a society is to prepare the next generation, give them the same opportunities that were given to us. And we're greatly in danger in Oklahoma of not doing that, not meeting our responsibility to the next generation, to our children and our grandchildren. That has to change, Joe. It has to change, or the whole future of our society is put at risk.
What role are you going to play in the university as you head into retirement? You and Molly both, and where do you see the future taking you?
Well, and I want her to comment on this too, but we continue. We hope to remain strong members of the university family, to be volunteers ourselves and supporters of what the university does. And I'm going to continue to teach at the university. It's one of the parts of my job that I enjoy the most, getting to be in the classroom with students. I teach a introductory freshman course in American government, and I intend to continue to teach that. And one of the things now, I'm often, because of so many other responsibilities, not able to spend the time with the students that I want to spend. And when class ends, very often I have to rush off to a meeting or to deal with a crisis of one kind or another. And hopefully in retirement, I'll have the time to sit and continue the discussion and have out-of-class time with my individual students. And I really look forward to that, because the students are the best part of this job. And I think Molly might say the same thing. And so we intend to stay connected with the university.
Well, I intend to become a student again, Joe.
Okay.
From time to time, I've audited courses in various areas, at landscape architecture, history of architecture, and there are a number of courses I'd like to take as an auditor. I don't want to write papers or take tests, but I want to read the material and hear the lectures, and so that's what I look forward to, as well as we'll be traveling a great deal too. So those are the two things I'm looking forward to.
Any particular place that really catches your interest in terms of travel, where you haven't been?
Well, we had planned to go last summer, and then it didn't work out. So our first trip is probably going to be to Normandy. We've always wanted to visit Normandy and visit those cemeteries that were created after World War II, and visit Omaha Beach and all those places in Normandy where we've never been before. So I think that's the first one on the list, and who knows what will come after that.
Any advice for your successor?
Oh my goodness, I think that's one of the things that outgoing presidents should avoid, giving too much advice to their successors. But I would just say, this isn't a job, this is a calling, and it's a place where you can serve. And I think the most important thing is to keep students as your priority, and to spend time with students, and to involve students, and then involve the entire community. Listen to students as well, because they have so many good ideas, so many things that they can teach us. We're starting a new program in biomedical engineering, the engineering of medical devices. It's one of the fastest growing areas of research and of commercial development in our entire country. There are so many jobs out there for those who are going to help us build medical devices for the future that are going to serve us. And where did we get that idea? That idea came not from me, but it came from students. So many of the good ideas have come from our students who are experiencing the university themselves. And so I would say, do a lot of listening, do a lot of including. You have all this talent. Think about how much intellectual talent there is at the campus. Think of these incredibly bright faculty members that we're so proud of. Think about these incredibly bright students that we're recruiting. That's another thing I didn't mention a while ago, but our students in 1 year, our students at the University of Oklahoma, did something that has happened at no other university in America in this century, or in the last century for that matter. They won the Rhodes Scholarship, the Marshall Scholarship, the Mitchell Scholarship, the Fulbright Scholarship, the Goldwater Scholarship, the Truman Scholarship. Those are our 6 most competitive scholarships in this country. They won them all in the same year. OU students won them all. Not students from Harvard, not students from any other private university or public university, but our students. So they're incredibly talented. So you have a place chock full of talent. The students, the faculty, the staff, the alumni. You have this incredible talent pool. So my advice would be use it. Solicit ideas. Take the best suggestions you get, because you have as free consultants some of the brightest people in the world, and they're right here, and they're part of our own community, and so it creates again that sense of community. We're being consulted. Our ideas are valued. Our ideas, they care about this university. They care about its future so deeply. That's why they're here. So listen to them, enlist them in the effort, because they're there to help you with their ideas, with their energy, and with their enthusiasm. And that's been a great source of comfort to me and a great source of support. And so I hope that continues.
The legacy that President and Mrs. Boren will leave in July on this institution will be forever. No one will be able to have an impact like they've had on the state, this nation. It's been remarkable. If there's one word to sum it all up, it's absolutely incredible.
I think I speak for all Oklahomans and how much we appreciate your more than 50 years of public service to the state of Oklahoma, and especially to this university.
You know, I am so thankful to the people of Oklahoma. They've given me every opportunity I've ever had in my life. I represented Oklahoma as a Rhodes Scholar to start with, selected from the state of Oklahoma, came home and was elected to the legislature and governor and senator, and then given the opportunity to be at this incredible university, which is so important to our future. You know, there's no way that I can say an adequate thank you to the people of Oklahoma for giving me the opportunity to serve in the ways that I have. It's been so rewarding. It's been such a rich and fulfilling life and career. And I owe it all to the people of Oklahoma who've given me that opportunity. And I know if Molly feels the same way. We're both very proud to be Oklahomans, proud of our roots, and there's just no way to adequately thank the people of Oklahoma for giving us this opportunity.
I challenge you to join me. Join us all together in this quest for excellence. University, live on. Thank you very much.